Hey everybody, it is a Wednesday evening here in the US. It is early on Thursday if you're over in Europe or if you're in Asia right now. And it's early in the evening for our friends out in Hawaii. And welcome to the Poker Uncensored 30. This is our second episode of the Poker Uncensored 30. And it's going to be a good one because we've got a lot of topics to cover tonight. It's going to be no holds barred tonight. If anybody wants to come in and make comments, you can do that. So first up tonight, just a quick introduction again, the second episode of the Poker Uncensored 30. We did do this last week and it had a lot of good feedback. People seem to enjoy the show, which is obviously good. And we are going to talk a little bit about me real quick. I'm nicknamed His Highness Hold'em, the 135th best player in career tournament earnings in New Hampshire. But tonight, unfortunately, we've got to start off with a little bit of sad news. So poker community this morning learned that Christopher Piccone unfortunately passed away at the age of 65 on Tuesday night due to a battle with brain cancer. And this is a person that the poker community had a good deal of respect for. He wasn't a pro. He didn't have $1 million in earnings, but he was a recreational player who often played in New Hampshire, and people really enjoyed their time at the table with him. His children, in a post today on Facebook, said that Chris had many friends. No matter where they went, he knew someone. And the off chance he didn't know the owner, the bartender, or the second cousin of the person running the window, he would chat them up as if he did. One poker player spoke about him and said that he was always someone who had a smile and a laugh when he was at the table. This is someone who's going to be missed in the poker community and throughout really all of New England. And, I just want to offer from Poker Uncensored condolences to his family and friends. We hate hearing about the news of people passing away. And unfortunately, in the era of so his death, obviously not COVID, right? He had cancer, but we've had a few people in the poker community that unfortunately have passed away due to COVID and other different medical issues. And it's never fun. I'd rather be talking about something else to open up the podcast, but some sad news there. Moving on, we're going to talk about something hopefully a little bit more fun. So the WPT is headed back down to the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. This is the one that's got the guitar-shaped hotel that you can see when you come into the airport. And this is going to be something that I would expect to beat out whatever guarantee they put on it. Now, it's a $3,500 buy-in event for the WPT main event. It goes April 24 to 27. It has a $2 million prize pool guarantee. The interesting thing is that when they've run previous events in Hollywood, whatever guarantee they had, they ended up doubling or tripling it. The last big main event that they had in Hollywood, that ended up giving multiple people six-figure, and we're not talking like just 100,000. I think it was like $500,000 of win. That was not a $2 million guarantee; it was less. So with this $2 million guarantee, I think we're going to see that kind of smash. I think we're going to see 3 million, maybe even 4 million in this. One of the factors leading up to that is the fact that they've got a bunch of other events that come up. So it's not just the WPT 3500, but you have satellites. So if you don't have the bankroll, you can actually go satellite in, which is great. If you have a huge bankroll, like you're a rich guy, you can show up and play the $50,000 buy-in super high roller event. And the super high roller event has the buy-ins that range as low as, the super high roller event is 50,000, but on the opposite end, they've got $150 buy-in events. And there's a request to see if Richard wants to join the podcast. It'd be great to have him on this thing. I mean, he knows a lot about poker. I'll see if he's able to join us today. That would be great. Always like to have people join in. And if you want to join, just reach out to me and it can potentially happen. So Seminole Hard Rock event, it should be a fun time. The weather in Florida should be great. It usually is great down there this time of the year. It's not super hot yet. However, the temperatures are going to be in the 80s and the 90s. So if you don't feel like playing poker, you can hit the beach and stuff like that, which will be good. On to our next topic. We're going to talk a little bit about some low stakes, no limit Texas Hold'em. And before I move on, just want to mention it is 8-handed play at Hard Rock. They use the Safe and Sound program. So this is obviously better than New Hampshire if the 6-handed play, better than the Borgata if 7-handed. But still not the full 9 or 10 handed. They've got plexiglass between everyone. They do a lot of sanitation there in Florida, so it's a good time, and you don't have to worry too much about contracting COVID. Also, masks are mandatory at the Hard Rock, even though Florida as a state doesn't mandate masks. They do mandate masks on the Hard Rock, which is actually on Native American land, so they don't follow the state anyway, or don't have to follow the state. So next up, we're going to talk a little about some no stakes, no limit hold'em. So some of New England's finest gathered for some friendly low stakes poker the other day. And by the way, Richie, are you on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm in.
All right, he's in. He's in. Cool. So some of New England's finest, we got together. We had some pizza, a charcuterie board. Scott demanded that we have manchego, and we got manchego, cannolis, a little bit of beer, and some wine, including chocolate beer, which is actually an interesting thing. Ultimately, some people made some money. I did.
Wait, chocolate beer?
Yeah. So it's a stout. It's like a chocolate stout. I'm pretty sure it's a European beer. I don't know the exact brand, but Joe's wife had it and was getting people to drink beer. So, and it was pretty good beer. It's definitely would fit really. It has kind of a coffee note to it as well, so it would really work well as like a brunch beer.
Matt, I have an important question before we move on here for the audience. So, if you were in a courtroom, what would your opening defense be why you are not the culprit for eating the steak tips?
Um, Let me see here. I would probably quote like I would probably quote some sort of ridiculous like line like, if the steak don't fit, you must acquit. Something like that. So, which by the way, nobody knows what happened to that steak. I think Cat Thrizzy ate it. And there should be a meme.
That opening, as the defense attorney to the steak tips, that opening defense looks pretty weak there, Matt. Just
I don't
saying,
know. I'm
you seem
convinced.
pretty guilty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of thoughts, right? So people say that their money is on Bert eating it. The interesting thing is Bert got lost trying to merely go find like a Dunkin' Donuts. So I don't know if he would be able to find steak tips, even if they were put right in front of him. But we did find out, by the way, it's Samuel Smith Organic Chocolate Stout. So not only is this organic beer, but it's imported from, I think, the United Kingdom, which is great. So, talking about the low stakes game, though, here's why I turn a profit. Every single time Joey Panic was in a hand and I raised, basically, I would raise and he would just call. The guy would call, 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 like he was the biggest calling station ever. And so he just couldn't fold. I flop the nuts, I go all in, he calls off, and he's drawing dead. It was that easy. And the question that I have, if somebody plays that terribly, how do they make a living doing that?
What did he have?
He never showed what he had, but he did say he was drawing dead. So presumably he had
That was
something
good.
like, he had like one pair, maybe, or he had totally. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
he
he had
can't be
a.
drawing dead with one pair.
That's right, because he could go runner runner. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Perhaps
maybe
he had a flush as well.
that could be it too, right? If he also had a flush and then he actually is drawing dead, but I don't think he had a flush there. I mean, it's kind of a weird one, but um, that ended up being weird. So Limp Call says, by the way, Panic is apparently confirmed to be the worst in poker. So that's an interesting comment. But one of the things that I think is that the reason that he's able to play such negative EV poker and still make a living doing it is that his game selection is where he's basically finding people that are actually even worse. So he's able to make money because they pay him off and stuff like that.
Yes.
So what do you think? Do you think game selection plays a big factor in New England poker?
Absolutely. I mean, you're gonna want to get in the best games possible.
And those are probably, I mean, if you're just looking to play against players who are easy to beat, then you probably don't want to be sitting at like, the 5-10 table or anything like that, right? You probably want to be looking for like 1-2 where the people are sitting around having a lot of drinks or whatever.
Yeah, I mean the reverse of your logic when you want to play against skilled players, you want to play always against the worst players possible, and then
Yeah.
obviously long term,
See,
your goal is that
in my
your
case,
goal will be that the variance evens out, or actually, well, it's in your favor.
right. In my case, right. So I only hate playing against awful players because the suckouts are just so much worse. Like it's like you hate to get it in way ahead, and somebody calls with some god awful hand, and they end up winning. Winning your money, and they end up gloating about how they just won a big hand, and it's because they just played like a complete and utter fool and got lucky.
I mean, all the more power to them. Like if someone wants to, you know, put in a ton of money with a gut shot, and I have a set, and they hit their gut shot, well, good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it always sucks losing, but like the higher percentage your hand is, obviously, the more money you're gonna make in the end.
Right. And especially, I mean, over the long run of cash, it should all balance out in your favor if you're continually getting it in good, too.
Absolutely.
So on to our next
Speaking of
topic.
tilted, I'm watching. Side note, which I don't know why this isn't in your topic. I'm watching this Helmuth Negranu
Is
clinic. I'm
is that
calling it a
on is that
clinic
on
because
Poker Go?
yeah, I was having a lot of trouble getting the thing to work, and now I finally got it to work. And Negranu is up 3-1
Right. So
right
the
now.
the reason I probably am not talking about it much is because I'm too cheap to go pay to subscribe to Poker Go. That's probably what it
It's
is. So
it's $10 a month.
yeah, and I'd rather spend my $10 a month to get Peacock and be able to watch wrestling all day long. So
Well,
because the WWE Network is now a part of Peacock. Um, but that is interesting. That big match between Negreanu and Helmuth. So Phil is up 3-1.
no, Negranu was up. Phil is getting absolutely embarrassed. So, how
Well,
much action do you have on Phil?
I bought the most that
Maximum.
he would let me, which was $50. So he only let people buy $50. Like, but he obviously
I
has.
think if he knew that you were buying, he would have let you get at least 60.
Yeah, he might have done that, but basically everybody on U-State could get $50 on Phil, and so I went and put my money behind him. But if he punts this thing, I'm gonna lose my $50, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do for dinner tomorrow. It's gonna be I'm gonna have to ask
Yeah,
somebody to bring me a sandwich or something. Um,
or eat the cat food.
right, I might have to eat cat food, and then the cat will starve. So that would be no good. Um, But moving
Yeah.
on to our next topic. So the Chasers expansion. So last week it was revealed that Chasers Poker Room and Casino in Salem, New Hampshire is looking to move into a former Kmart space. Now, for those who never went to Kmart, because basically in the last 15 years, a ton of them have closed because the company basically went bankrupt because nobody was shopping there. Kmart is essentially a big box retail store, probably the size of like a Target or a Walmart. Maybe not a Walmart supercenter, but an average Walmart store. And this is a big expansion for them because we are looking at um, basically going from under 6,000 square feet in their current location to more than 84,000 square feet. And by the way, for our international members out there, or international viewers, it is 10:30. So right now it's 10:44 p.m. Eastern. It is 10:44 a.m. on April 1st if you're in Hong Kong or Singapore, and I believe it is 3:44 a.m. if you're in Central Europe. So the Chasers expansion, though, back to that, right? So we're talking about more than 84,000 square feet. So they are growing roughly 14 times in size from what they had today. They're going to have 800 gaming stations, which they have nowhere near that today. So how many?
What is a gaming station?
Like a seat for somebody to play at. So
Oh,
Basically, if you took every seat at like blackjack, roulette, poker, and added it all together, it's supposed to be like 800. Now, how many tables again do they have today? Is it 12 or 14? Does anyone? When's the last
what
time you
I
were
have
in
no.
Chasers?
Um, I haven't played at Chasers in forever.
I
Um,
haven't played there since COVID, but I seem to. I feel like it was 14 tables plus they have two roulette wheels and then maybe six tables of other gaming. So even when it was nine-handed play, their total number of gaming stations would have been below like 250. So that's a pretty decent expansion. Plus, the bar area at Chasers was pretty. I mean, it could seat like a dozen people maybe. They're gonna have 155 dining and lounge seats there. So um, that's a pretty large expansion. I mean, people said Cheers was big. This is even bigger. I think Cheers wasn't even 20,000 square
no,
feet.
Cheers. Yeah, Cheers was much smaller. From I only went to Cheers once. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
mean it was
Andy
a good.
Burns, by
It
the
was
way,
probably the biggest room, but
Andy Burns says that they had 16 tables at their max. So for poker seating rate, that was 100 and what 44 maybe seats, and then you had the other gaming. So it was definitely it's probably less than even 220 total seats. So this is a pretty big expansion. What some people have brought up though, they feel like this could actually be too big of an expansion, which is interesting. And there's a lot of things that are unknown. So, like, how many tables are going to be dedicated to poker is not known. Will there be tournaments is not known. Is there going to be Lucky Seven or slot? Now, New Hampshire doesn't allow slots yet, but there's talk about legalizing what's called historical horse racing slots. So basically, it uses old
what?
horse racing. Yeah, it uses old horse racing results to determine slot outcomes and essentially represents those on the screen or whatever. So they're talking about legalizing that because they already have horse racing bets legalized, and that's what Seabrook or the Brook and Belmont had. But some people have
Gotcha.
suggested that the space that they're looking at moving into might be too big. Do you think that's the case?
I mean, I just think of like. I mean, for people, I mean, I'm assuming people know Kmart, but it's like, yeah, I'm imagining like walking into like a Walmart and it being a poker room. It's just like, it's like I don't see what were those slot machines in Manchester? I don't know
They're
slot
called
machines
Lucky.
in Manchester.
So
Yeah,
they're
lucky.
not
That's
actual
the.
slots. They're
They're
called
not
Lucky
slot
Seven.
machines technically. Yeah,
Yeah, and they have
I just I don't. I mean, unless Chasers is like gonna be like a casino, like because everyone says a casino in New Hampshire. When I think casino, I think Fox was unique and whatever. Like it's basically a glorified card room with like a couple of roulette tables. So to have it be that big, I mean, who's gonna fill the space? It's not gonna be poker. It's not gonna be a casino. It's I mean, if they're gonna get Kmart, they should dual purpose the space to be like a restaurant, a full scale restaurant as part of it. Then a separate section for poker and slots, and
yeah.
then
Well, that's what I think they need to do is have like a
I don't know
decent.
what the rest of it would be. I'm thinking because I mean maybe I'm not picturing it well, but I'm
Yeah,
thinking like a Kmart, Walmart type size place is pretty big.
yeah. I mean, it is huge. You're looking at essentially enough space that like if you wanted to say have 100 poker tables in there, you could do it and you would still have tons of space left. And that's why I think overall it's a net positive for New England players because one, we're going to get more jobs and obviously we need them. We unemployment in New Hampshire is not too bad, but in Massachusetts they're over 7.5%.
I'm gonna I'm gonna disagree that expanding, depending on the size of the expansion, I think it's actually a negative to have a huge size room. Reason being, it's kind of like the whole, monopoly versus competition. Like if Chasers comes and buys this Kmart place and they put, I don't know, you're not even 100 tables is not going to fill. But if they put like 40, 50 tables in, they have a full scale restaurant. They have, I don't know, something else there that coincides with people that play poker. Like I don't know. Actually, well, I don't know. Weed's not legal in New Hampshire. It would be kind of cool if they had like a poker room slash restaurant slash
Cannabis
uh
dispensary.
cannabis dispensary.
That would
But I
be the
think
most
would
interesting. Imagine the licensing board when you show up and you say, "We want to have gambling, alcohol, and cannabis, and it's all in one place." Like it would, the regulatory approval on that would just be nuts because you'd have to go to like so you'd have the alcohol board has to approve, and the town planning board, and the gaming commission, and the
yeah.
cannabis commission or
So
whatever. So
okay, so um Joe Murphy said, I'm assuming Brokefish is Joe Murphy. I think his point is higher overhead could drive them to raise rake. No. Well, I mean, they probably would have to raise rake, but I mean, with the amount of tables, I don't think they would have to. My point is, if you have one room that's just like the elite, it's like the room to go to. It has everything you could possibly want. Why would you go anywhere else? They can offer better promos. They can offer, subsidiary things like a cannabis dispensary or I don't know, a fishing store or something like, you know what I mean? They're gonna put something else in that space to
they could
fill
add. They
the
could
space.
almost look at adding like a poker retail store in there, like sell like gaming, like
Yeah, a
hoodies
convenience
and
store, like a literal convenience type store that's just like, oh, I need gum or I want fucking whatever I want so I can go get it at the right there, like they keep part of the store. But back to my point being, New Hampshire has a lot of rooms. If they have, this room that's literally catering, and I literally mean catering to everything you could possibly need or want, how are the other rooms going to compete with that with, the size of the rooms, their budget, everything? I just think I don't know. So I understand what has sort of happened to the other side of this to attract more poker players and thus better action. I think encores can't be included in this conversation
well,
just
I think it's
because
going to be
there's
interesting
always going to
because
be
what
there's always going
happens
to just be the player pool that's 20 minutes down the road, like a half hour down the road, five
right.
minutes down the road, that they're going to go to the place that's closest to them, or even if it's New Hampshire, they're going to support a New Hampshire
And
business versus
a lot of the Brook and a lot of Chasers customers today are people that were playing at Encore, and since it's closed, they're not now. If Encore resumes poker, the question is, will they go back? But the other factor is, do they actually run? So their whole reason that they, I guess, stopped running tournaments is that they had so much cash action and such a huge wait list that they figured, well, we'll just make the cash players happy and you get to rake every hand. Maybe if they have 50 tables in there and they're only using 35 for cash, they'll say, well, let's run a tournament and get some people into the room so that they can go play tournaments, because it's better to have the customers in there playing a tournament than to have them sitting at home or going to your competitor, right?
pretty stoked about. Got sidetracked, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I was saying, in effect, right, if they can run tournaments, it would be better for them because they're going to get the people in who only want to play tournaments who never go to Chasers now. Um, because they,
Yeah, I mean, using that if they have enough tables, which I would imagine they would, they can effectively run, bigger tournaments for sure.
right, and that's the other factor. I mean, if they ran a 250 and they got the Philotomo size crowd of 120 people, but they have the tables and the staffing because you need the dealers to do a tournament that has 200 people like Rockingham used to run when they were open in Salem. That's something that could potentially happen. So we're going to move on
Is
to.
the well, you were bringing up Philip, Mitch. Is the situation there that they still don't have enough dealers, or because they have the table space to fill out the 120 for the 250, or it's a dealer situation
Part of it
still, right?
is dealers, right? Because you'd think that they could say, well, we have that room that used to hold the old
The
poker room that's
bingo.
now empty. Could we, well, there's the bingo room too, but you'd think they could throw tables in the other room and use that to have bigger tournaments, but I think really it comes down to just not having enough staff on hand. And with, again, New Hampshire's
Yeah.
unemployment rate being relatively low, it's not as easy to pull in dealers. So to move on to our next topic, and
Just
this
as
one I'm sure is going to
Filipino.
get, I'm sure this one's going to get some interesting commentary. But
Here we
there
go.
is a possible cheating scandal here in New England. So on Monday, Joe Murphy, who's apparently watching this live stream right now, came forward with some serious allegations against two people, Daniel Stenderowitz and Angel Molina. This is a quote from Murphy. He said, Daniel S. is a cheater. He was caught on Poker Bros and had 6K confiscated. He was banned from the app. He colluded for Angel M, both dealers at billiards. So that was the allegation that Joe came forward with. Now, Murphy came out with those allegations after Daniel had won 9,000 in the Rake Free Flop tournament. No evidence points to any collusion in that event. There's nothing to indicate that he concluded, right? You and I actually watched the entire final table. We didn't see anything that would indicate any collusion or cheating there. However,
No.
Daniel's come back firing, saying that there's no merit to this. He says there's no merit. He released a dump of conversations, and this is not some random player who nobody knows of. He's pretty well known. He has 273,000 of live tournament winnings, and he basically put out more than 200 screenshots that's public. He says he had thousands of dollars effectively stolen from him, and initially, when the evidence came out, there was no hard evidence provided. Now, later, the hand histories were released. And I'm wondering, did you have a chance to look at any of those hand histories?
I looked at some of them. It's just like some of them didn't make sense, but there is, I mean, I'm not defending him because I don't know the situation, but I mean, on those apps, there's been multiple times that I've been playing and misclicked. I mean, if you're on your phone, sometimes those, like, I don't know Poker Bros well, but like one of the other apps I play, like it's very much easier to misclick on an app than like,
And
you know what I mean? Like,
that's how I
I
went
don't,
all in with Queen 8 offsuit. That's what I should have said. I should have just made up, oh, oops, I misclicked
but
instead of
I
trying to
will
defend it.
say there was, I like I said, I didn't read. I just think the whole situation, I don't know enough of it to really have a full comment on it, but it just seems
Yeah. Now
it wasn't like,
Brokefish says that I can't read the
especially in
hand
the
history.
tournament, like it wasn't like they could.
Right, they couldn't like in a tournament, it's hard to get at the same table if you're trying to collude somebody when you've got multiple tables in the event. Now, Brokefish says that I can't read hand histories. Can we get that on the record? Well, we're going to actually go through one of these hand histories so we can talk through it. So this one here, we've got four-handed play. So the hand history is to the right. Now, the username Poker King 23, that's Molina. I limp call is Daniel, and then the other ones, it doesn't actually have their username. It just puts a random number in there instead. But basically, it's four-handed here. This is a $25 rebuy tournament, which is 9 max. And the blinds are 600, 1200, 200 ante. So Molina's got ace-3 off. He calls. Daniel calls with ace-3 off. The small blind folds and the big blind checks, which seems pretty standard. I don't think ace-3 off is a raising hand necessarily. So the pot's got about 4,200 in it. Now the flop comes ace-6-4. It's mixed suits, two hearts. The big blind checks. Molina bets 2,500, which is 60% of the pot. Daniel calls, and the big blind calls. So now we're at 11,700 in the pot. The turn is the king of diamonds.
Okay, so in this cheating scandal, though, are they colluding to get money to Daniel or together? I mean, is that what we're saying? They're working together because
I don't know.
this just seems like a standard. I saw the hand that I saw in question, I think was like ace-4 diamonds, and the guy called the turn and then rivered the flush on a
That's the
paired
one we're going to
board
get
and then
into.
folded.
We're
But
going to get
like
into that one too. We'll get into
that
that one
one,
too.
yeah,
But
okay.
on this one, right? So the turn's the king of diamonds. The big blind checks. Molina bets about 71% of the pot, a little over 2/3, and everybody folds. So my question here is: this collusion? Like, how is this one collusion? And is anyone who folds top pair with a weak kicker going to be branded a cheater if they do that? I mean, I could see myself folding to
The
what looks
hand is
like a
just
value bet here.
standard. Like, yeah, I mean,
Now, Andy Burns says he doesn't think that
yeah, I
it's
mean,
collusion
I'd
to
say
say you
no,
don't want to
Joe.
knock
This
out your
isn't.
friend.
I mean, I guess okay. I guess the argument I think there's a fine line here too. Now, I mean, this hand is standard. There's nothing fishy about this
Yeah,
hand to me. But I think what did he say? The different hands have different contexts. You're definitely wrong. It's 100%. I mean, you have to okay. Then you have to make the argument of his soft play collusion, and I would say yes. I mean, I don't think I don't think you should be soft playing anything. Like if you're at a poker table, there's no like I'm your friend kind of thing. Like yeah, I
yeah,
mean, like
yeah,
it's just not how it is.
and
Like
then we get into this hand here, right? And
so,
this one is where they're five-handed. Now the blinds are 300,
all right, is this
600,
the
ante
ace four
60,
diamonds? Yeah.
and this is
Okay.
where the under the gun player folds, middle position opens to 1800. Melina calls and Daniel calls. Now Daniel's got ace of diamonds, four hearts. Melina has queen 10 suited, which is a decent hand to be calling with from what is effectively late position here. Or I think he's actually the button, but the flop is Jack, King, Deuce. Now all diamonds here. So Molina's hit, he's got an open-ended straight draw, which could potentially be drawing dead. And then you've got Daniel who has the nut flush draw. Now it checks around. So I think that's kind of, I feel like that's sort of standard. I feel like, you don't want to fire necessarily with just a draw there, because what happens if somebody goes all in? And then,
Um, Middle position opens. Molina calls. Daniel calls. Uh, yeah. I mean, Daniel's in position under the gun folds. Middle position calls. Daniel. Where's Daniel? It doesn't say.
he
I
calls from the
mean,
small blind.
regardless of flop action. Okay. Yeah. No. Then he's checking.
Yeah. So
Out of
then,
position. I
right.
mean,
So
regardless of all the hand stuff, it's just getting to the the juice of it. The river folding the ace high flush is a little suspect. I mean, and I don't even know if I'd say a little. I mean, you just got to call off there. If they have the better hand, then so be it.
yeah. And then in this, actually, it looks like in this hand, right? So yeah, middle position checking. Molina fires about 62% of the pot. He has the open-ended straight draw on the turn, but Daniel has the ace high flush draw still, and he calls. Um, and the other guy who's in the hand at this point, basically, he decided to fold, right? So it's just now heads up between Daniel and Molina. Now the river brings a seven of diamonds, and this is where it gets a little bit weird. So Molina bets 70-50, which is half the pot, and Daniel folds. He has the nut flush, and he folds it. And this is the hand that I felt, that's a little bit suspect, right? Because most people, they have the ace high flush, they're probably calling off or even raising. Like if I'm in this tournament and I have the ace high flush and somebody bets half pot, I'm probably making a raise to like maybe like 2.75 times what they bet to try to get some value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the turn? I mean, I don't. I mean, the only hand that you're really getting any value from that's worse than yours is the Queen of Diamonds. And like, if you're raising the river, I would have never raised the river here, but I guess that's a different discussion.
Well, that's a good point, because you could also argue for just calling, because you don't, even though you have the top flush, you don't have the nuts, because the board's paired out. You could be beat in by hands. So like pocket twos, pocket sevens, pocket kings, pocket jacks, king deuce, jack deuce, and seven deuce will all beat you. Now, given the action that we had, king deuce, jack deuce, and seven deuce probably aren't the case. But could this be a case where Daniel, being a skilled player, just figured, my opponent may have flopped a set and then ended up with a full house or quads and folds, or was he cheating?
I mean, yes, because when you look at what's value betting the river, it's only the ace high flush, a queen high flush. He has the ace high flush. So the only hand that's value betting the river that he has beat, in theory, is the queen of diamonds. So he literally only beats. I mean, it sounds crazy, but like the way you're saying it is there actually are more hands that beat you, then you lose to.
So really,
So, I
what?
mean, then you beat because as you, I don't know if it's still here. Like there's so many hands that beat you. I'm not saying you're supposed to fold, obviously. Like that's, but there are a lot of hands that beat you, and there are like he's not gonna bet like an eight if he has like let me see if he has like Queen 10. So say like he had Queen 10 on the flop, he had the open ender with a diamond, but he'd probably bet that anyways. But like he's not betting a 10 of diamonds here. He's not betting a 9 of diamonds. Like, like I just don't see that when you call the turn, like no, you're not like you're not folding, but I'm bringing the other side of uh the other side of the
Yeah, no, I
coin
get what you're saying.
to the
I
table.
mean, I
You're
would.
not folding, you're calling, but like
Yeah, you should really hear. I feel like this is a spot where you should be making the call here with that. Like, I would personally at least be calling. Even if I thought my opponent might have a boat, I still probably call off to see it here just because with the stack sizing and stuff like that. But, if he had a strong read that his opponent had a full house, maybe he says, well, why pay him off? I'm going to fold. And it's not collusion. On the other hand, if it was collusion, then, well, one, this is probably like the dumbest hand to collude on, right? Where it's so obvious, or potentially obvious. And then we've got,
was Molina a short stack?
so
Like
Molina
what I'm saying is, are these
has,
chips helping him? Like where are they in chips in this tournament? There's five people left.
right. So the big blind is
Daniel is
600.
chip leader. Molina has how much?
Molina has 34,
I'm
540. And
talking about
it's,
stack size.
so in terms
Oh,
of
here
big
it is.
blinds, we'd have to do the math, but divide by 600. So roughly,
No, I'm just saying their stack size. They're all pretty equal in stacks here.
no. When we look at the stack, so those are up towards the top here. Um, so
Okay,
Molina's
so
got,
who's Molina? Poker King?
yep. So he has about a little over 50. So he's got something like 56 big blinds. And then Daniel's got like 160 something big blinds.
Is Molina? What I'm saying is Molina's the short stack. Molina's the short stack here.
Molina is the short stack, but it's not like he's,
Because like
below
here's
20.
my argument would be is if he's the short stack. No, but I'm saying he's the shortest of the five. So if he's folding to the shortest stack, to me that looks suspicious because it's like he's trying to help him to survive, kind of thing.
Right. So what I'm saying here too, so we got Joe saying, well, he's defending folding. I'm saying that there's an argument for folding. Now, I probably call off, but there's an argument that if you think your opponent, you strongly
No,
put
there's
them on
really
having hit a set, then could you fold this?
there is. I mean, even though I argued that, I don't think there's any argument to folding. You have to
Yeah.
call as a chip leader. It's a half pot bet. It's not like it's for your tournament. If it was for your tournament life, then you can sit there and be like, okay, like it was, but it's your chip leader for calling off for half pot. You don't have to. There's
And
no
then,
argument for you
yeah.
have to call there as chip leader.
And this is another one which I know Joe posted
All right, let's look at
before,
another hand here.
but this one is where we've got a seven-handed play. Now the blinds are 1800, 3600 with 350 ante. Daniel's on the button with the
Okay.
Queen of Hearts, Jack of Clubs, and about 26 big blinds. Now, action folds to him, right? So basically it goes, fold, 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 and then it's him. Now, he actually folds. He has 26 big blinds, and he has Queen Jack, so he's got two offsuit Broadways. Molina raises because he has pocket aces at the small blind, and the big blind player decides that he's going to lay down his hand, which his hand was where is it? He had 5-9 offsuit, so that's pretty standard that with 5-9 offsuit, when you're facing a raise, you're gonna fold out of position.
This particular.
So the question
Why
here,
don't
and
we do
again,
this with all the relatives?
so what basically what
Seven-handed
Joe's
play.
arguing is that he had 23 big blinds. He was the chip leader. Now, how does he have 23 big? So he had 58K, or sorry, no, he had 90. So it's Island call is 92,810. Now, if we take 92 810 and we divide by 3600, we get 25.7, which is closer to 26 big blinds. But in any case, so he has 26 big blinds, basically. 25 big blinds if we want to round down. And he
Yeah.
folds queen jack offsuit. Now, some argue that that's a must open from the button here, and that there has to be collusion where he knew that the other guy had pocket aces, so he decided to throw it away. Do you think that folding queen jack? I mean, I've called with queen jack or played queen jack, and then I get told I'm a huge donkey for playing queen jack offsuit. So I don't understand how it has to be that he's
Two
cheating.
things. Two things. One, the next time we do this, we need to promote it so there's more than 5 people watching. Like, I think moving forward for the general podcast stream, whatever, make it so it's like a certain night at a certain time so more people tune in because there's
That's
only
a
a
good
few people.
idea.
But besides that, for the five
People also
people that are
watch
still with
the replays too, but yeah, that's a good idea to
that's
try to
yeah.
standardize the time.
For the 5 people that are still listening to this my entertainment for the night, Hellmuth is about to get absolutely destroyed. Um, I don't know. I mean, this like yeah, you should open the button, but I mean this hand's weird. Like, do you really think this? They're sitting in the same room, like, hey, buddy, what do you have? I have queen jack. Oh, you shouldn't open the button. I have aces. Like, you know, you're gonna lose 2 blinds. Like, it seems like a little overkill. Like, yes, he should be opening the
Yeah.
button, but
Oh boy.
you know, like, are you gonna
The great one,
open the button for 2 bigs and then
the great one wants to join the
get
stream right
jammed
now.
on by the who does?
The great one.
Who's the great one?
The Joe wants to join, so let's see if we can get him to come on board here.
Okay, that is a point. It's possible that Daniel is logged into both accounts. I mean, yeah, maybe.
So that's actually a good point. So I believe Poker Bros has GPS restrictions and IP restrictions that stop you from getting into the same tournament if you're in the same location or same IP. So I mean, there's ways to get around that, right? You could spoof the GPS and I'm trying to send Joe the link here. You can spoof the GPS and it doesn't want to let me send it to him. This is amazing. So you could spoof the GPS. There's other ways that you could trick the system, right? You could run one off. You could make one off of one router, you know, and then have the other one on a different internet connection or something like that. But who asked to get? Hold on. So I've got. Oh, it's Joe, not Joe Murphy that wanted to join this. Joe Frizzy wants to join this. I mixed up my Joes. There's too many Joes out there. So Frizzy may be joining us, but not Murphy. So my point being, though, there are ways to essentially bypass those technical controls that Poker Bros has. Other ways, so Poker Bros allows you to run their app on an Android. You can emulate an Android on a Windows computer. So if I set up a Microsoft Azure virtual machine and host it out of a data center in San Francisco or California, and then I play on the app on my phone here in New Hampshire and then play on the VM that's out in California, it's going to look like I'm in two completely different places, multi-accounting. So there's ways to get around it. So let's. Oh, and it looks like Rich got the boot somehow. I didn't kick him off. He just ended up dropping off. Hopefully he's able to rejoin, and hopefully Joe's able to join on. But let's move on to our open Q&A, which is basically the last segment here. Sorry, one last thing. So what happens next, right? So there's the court of public opinion, which is basically the poker community looking at both sides of the story. All of the documentation that's been published by Joe and all of the info that's been published by Daniel, people can go look at it and they can basically make their own decisions. Who do you believe? Do you think he cheated? Do you think he didn't cheat? And then there's the New Hampshire Lottery Commission investigation because the accused people hold gaming licenses in New Hampshire. A complaint got filed with the Lottery Commission. That complaint is going to have to get reviewed by the commission, and they're going to have to determine if those people, and we've got Rich back on, which is great.
There we
The
go.
Lottery Commission is going to have to review that and determine if any rules were broken. Now, I personally think that the lottery commission is going to say that, this is out of their jurisdiction. In their eyes, Poker Bros is just a play money poker app. It's like if you went and played Monopoly or whatever. What they did, let's say they colluded to win at play money poker. It would be like if they cheated in, Call of Duty. They used like an aimbot to cheat in Call of Duty, right? That's what the lottery commission is going to do. I don't think they're going to suspend their gaming license or anything like that.
Wait, so how could the New Hampshire lottery do anything with Poker Bros or any app? Like they don't run them. So like who are they going to suspend?
They can't do anything with the app, but what they could do is they could potentially say that, we don't, based on your conduct, we say you're no longer suitable to have a gaming license in New Hampshire, and then they can't be dealers. That's what the commission could do.
Okay.
But I don't feel like the commission is going to do that because
I think it's just too much work. And it's outside of the workplace, so I don't know if it would have merit at the end of everything.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, right? It is, they it's not like they were rigging poker in a live poker room in New Hampshire, because then the lottery commission would definitely have jurisdiction. And Andy Burns says, I'm setting up the cheaters guide. Look, the thing is that if you want to stop cheating in online poker, it's like if you want to stop hackers, what you have to do is you actually have to understand how these people do it, right? You have to understand how they're cheating. How are they getting their bots to not get caught? How are they multi-accounting? That way you can figure out how to prevent it. One way that you could limit the cheating on online poker is if you said, you know what, we're not going to allow insecure operating systems like Android that can be emulated on other platforms and virtualized like that to run these apps, but then you kick out like 30% of the player population that's using Android, or whatever the percentages of Android versus iOS. So, that's definitely not necessarily reasonable. And then the question that Joe has, who knows if they're rigging poker live or colluding live? Well, there's no evidence of any rigging or colluding of live poker. If any evidence existed and somebody has it, then they should probably send it to the lottery commission so that it can actually be looked at, because that would be pretty serious.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happens next. Now just on to the open Q&A. If people have questions, they can post them. They can go on YouTube, Twitter, or of course Facebook. Let me just go back and see if we missed any questions that people had. Andy asked if there's no copyright on the Limp Call usage. I don't know if Limp Call copyrighted their name. I know they registered the business in New Hampshire, so I don't know if they've actually copyrighted. Like if somebody came out and said like, I'm going to form, Limp Call Poker, could Joe and Alex like sue them for $1 million or whatever? That I'm not sure about. And then let's see. Oh yeah, what was so Antonio suggested that you should never limp into a pot. Do you think he's right?
I wouldn't say never, but overall if you're getting into a pot, you want to be opening it, because it's like, all right, say you're under the gun, right? And you limp into the pot. Now you're just letting people into the pot cheaper, like, and you're just letting the blind see a flop. It's the same thing as like people. Okay, so let me just use the classic example. Guy limps aces under the gun. He's like, oh, someone's gonna raise, and then I'm gonna re-raise, and I'm gonna win the pot. You limp aces under the gun. Big blind has 8-deuce off. The flop comes 8-deuce. Okay, now you're like, oh, great flop, but the big blind has 8-deuce. So you just let them in there when they would have just folded. So that's the most basic argument of why would you want to limp, like, especially in terms of that. Joe says Antonio is an idiot, and I don't know if Joe's still here, but I'm gonna put my money.
He's not gonna be pleased about that. In fact, he might challenge him to a fight or something.
Who did? Wait, what?
No, Joe Murphy said that Antonio is an idiot, and I'm saying Antonio is not going to be pleased. But Joe Frizzy, who is not the same as Joe Murphy, different guy. He is now on.
No, I know that.
So Joe, how are you doing tonight?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Did you find any errant steak tips in your house?
No, we haven't figured out where the steak tips went yet, but I'm leaning towards Bert.
I think the cat ate it.
Very unlikely.
Yeah. So what do you have any thoughts on this cheating scandal?
All I have to say is, number one, if you're going to replay the hands, let's put the hands in an actual replayer. It'll be easier for people to see and understand what happened. It's a lot more telling when you see the hand play out as opposed to reading a fragmented hand history, especially when it's really confusing how it says PokerStars on the top. It's not on PokerStars. I don't even understand what half these tournaments were, what club they were in. There's just a lot of context missing from all of them. If you're going to start running through the hands, get all that info together first, then talk about it. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that probably, I thought Joe did actually throw these things into a hand replayer so people could play them back. Joe Murphy, I thought he threw a couple of the hands in. I know he didn't throw the entire ones that were essentially called collusion in there, but he did put some out there. I think they're linked in
when you look at these
or Poker Uncensored.
When you look at these hands, and especially if you look at them in a hand replayer, I mean, some of them are just like whatever, but then there's some spots that are just absolutely ridiculous that they need to be answered to. And I've heard some of the answers. Some of the answers, I don't know. They need more context. If you're going to do this, like I'm saying, put it together right and do it right. This isn't the way to do it.
Yeah, I think we're bringing this up, but we're not inviting Angel, I believe the guy, and Dan. Why don't we, Matt, or by we, I mean you, Matt, why don't you get Dan and Angel next week? Whatever day you want to do it, we'll set it up.
This is actually what I wanted to do, is get Dan, Angel, and Joe Murphy to all come on the podcast, and we go through the entire thing. He could present the case that they colluded, they could present their defense, and then the poker community could determine if they want to believe either party.
Yeah, I think that's your best bet, because, me and you speculating on hands, or the general public speculating on hands that we weren't involved in, like Joe, the other Joe said here, like, I can look at the hand and go, okay, that hand's no big deal, looking at it in front of me. And then another hand, I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Like, why did he call with the flush? But like, we don't have every single detail in front of us. Like, on paper, it looks like cheating, but maybe there's something we're not getting,
Yeah. And can someone explain to me?
I think there's a fine line. I think I could be wrong about this. I think I read something that they were like, oh, there was a screenshot from Joe Murphy that said something about Dan being like, I didn't want to stack my friend or something like that. Now, the line is I don't want to stack my friend cheating. And I would say yes, because what are you going to do if you and your buddy are at a final table and there's, 2, 3, whatever other people left, and you guys just aren't going to play against each other? That's cheating.
Right.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's cheating. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't want to stack them. That's still cheating. It might not be cheating to a full degree, but it's still cheating.
Yeah, it's definitely not a soft play, right? If you're in a tournament, especially, because I know that the TDA said, soft play is something that can earn you a penalty, right? If you check the nuts or whatever, you can get penalized for that. Now, one thing that Joe said, the hand histories kept getting reported and removed when he put them into the replayer. How do you get a hand history reported and removed? It's not like it's a hand history. You can't. It's not like you're calling out the word donkey and Facebook deletes it.
Let me just say one thing here. I've talked to everybody involved and heard reasoning from both sides. One thing really sticks out to me is that it's pretty damn hard, pretty much impossible to get banned from Poker Bros. I don't know anybody that's been banned from Poker Bros or had their money confiscated, which really sticks out to me. But other than that, I mean, he has some reasons and there's other things going on, but I don't really care as much what happened on Poker Bros so much. My concern was what's going on in the home games, because I know he plays a lot of the local home games. If there's going to be some kind of cheating, that's where it's going to be happening, especially in one of the higher buy-ins, which, I mean, we knew that this went on, and then he goes and wins probably the highest buy-in home game that has happened in the last year.
So on that point, let me just break in here real quick. On that point, like, I haven't played that many I haven't played like daily flops, but I've been playing, since the beginning, at least once a week. I've never seen him play. Like, I'm not saying I play regularly enough that I would definitely miss it, but like, I've never seen him play. And then he came into this tournament and pretty much the entire time he steamrolled it, like just crushing chip lead. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible to absolutely crush a tournament, but like I'm talking he had second and third place chips out chipped as a chip leader. That doesn't happen very frequently. So it definitely raised a little bit of a red flag to me. Like, but at the same point is how could he be cheating to get that far ahead? Like, is he colluding with 5 or 6 people and they're splitting the pot? Like, there's a deeper part of it to that, to me at least, or could be. I'm not saying there is, but there could be. Like,
It's
definitely a little weird.
So
it's a
Joe
legitimate,
Murphy again
it's a
saying that.
legitimate concern. That's
Yeah.
that's
Joe Murphy again, by the way, saying the fold of Queen Jack on the button, which again was offsuit, was 15 big blinds. He had 25 big blinds. Literally, take his chip count and divide it by the number of chips that the big blind is, and you'll find that it's about 25.6. But it will be interesting. I do like the idea of seeing if we can get everybody to come on and go through the hands on a hand replayer.
Absolutely.
Start there. Put everything together. Get the mini hand replayer and put all the info together, and I'll help you with the rest.
Yeah, if anyone knows a good hand replayer to use, let me know. That would be helpful. So the Poker Uncensored 30 tonight actually is at 56 minutes. So we need to wrap this one up soon. Anybody have any final questions for us? Anyone have any final topics they want to chat about?
just back to that point. I just think we should get everyone together. We can make it the poker 60 or the poker whatever we need, like,
Yeah, that might
to
need
get to
more
the
than a half
bottom of this.
hour.
Because I think beyond the general bickering of someone doesn't like Joe or Joe doesn't like this guy or whatever, or back and forth, is regardless of who likes who and what's Facebook drama and what's actual dislikes of people, like, it is something that needs to be talked about, and not just talked about but solved. Because if this guy is going to be playing in these games that we all play, we've been the majority of people have been playing these games off and on for the past year, with live being limited. It's important for a lot of people to have these games to make a buck or whatever. So it's very important that whatever is going on is defended if it is innocent, or there's a common ground found that you know you can't be soft playing your friend. Like, you can't be doing it. Like, don't jeopardize a good thing that Corey has built with Float the Flop, and the team at Thousand Years built, and Limp Call's doing their tournaments now. So it's like, don't diminish something because people are worried about possible cheating collusion. It's just, to me, that's just fucked up.
Yep. All right. Let's see if we've oh boy, we've got the so Joe saying I probably shouldn't be doing this and I don't understand tournament theory. Now I almost exclusively have played tournaments for the last like 2 years. Like I barely play cash games anymore. I think the I've played more cash games this month than I played in all of 2020. So, and that was just because I did that $500 bankroll thing and then played this week.
Right.
But it just, I mean, the thing is if you're going to try to present a case to the poker community that somebody cheated, you need to make it so that like what Joe Ingram did, right? When Joey Ingram looked at the Mike Postle thing, he went through and explained it in a way that the average player or even below average player could get it. If it's stuff that only like super advanced players are going to understand, nobody's going to get it.
It's okay. Point blank, it doesn't matter about stack sizes. All tournament theory doesn't matter in this. The only thing that really matters is did Daniel say, I was just trying to not stack my friend? And if that's the case, he cheated. Like, the only thing Joe said this before was, oh, what do you mean he didn't fully cheat? I'm saying he didn't fully cheat. He didn't just fully dump chips off or say, hey, I have this. We don't know that. The only thing that we know, if I'm correct on this, is that he said, I didn't want to stack my friend or whatever. That's not the same thing as, hey, I gave him my stack so he had we were going to split the prize pool. There was, further implications to what he was doing versus I just don't want my friend to go out. Like, no, fuck that. So beyond any theory, it's just getting Dan and Angel in to say, were you guys taking it easy on each other? And follow up to that, if you say yes, do you realize why that's a problem in these games? That's it.
Preach.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. And we'll hopefully have some follow up on this. Maybe I'll be able to convince Joe Murphy to jump on, and we get Joe and Angel and Dan together. We talk through this. Good luck to everybody if you're playing tomorrow or this weekend. And for those who are looking forward to Easter, have a happy Easter. I believe the Easter egg rolls are back in some parts of the country this year, so that should be good.
All right, yeah, let's we'll follow up on it whenever. Everyone have a good night.
Good night, everyone.